Hello and welcome to our special program, the grand finale. That's because we're talking about the fourth and final test between India and Australia. And the series right now is at a very interesting point. That's because India may be leading 2-1 in the series. But remember, this test match will also determine whether India make it to the World Test Championship final or not. They're up against a formidable opposition in Australia that were trailing 2-0 at one point, but then forced their way back into the series, winning the last test match. This time too, on day one of the test match, Australia have started well. That's what we'll be discussing in the next half an hour or so. But the special treat for all our viewers here on India Today is the fact that we're talking about the Border Gavaskar series, and we have both Sunil Gavaskar and Alan Border joining us live on our program. As I mentioned, we will talk about the series, where the match stands at the moment, but also speak about the visit of Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, as well as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, both of whom were there at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. But before we dive into that discussion, let's focus our attention on the test match. Now, the pitch that was on offer in Ahmedabad was drastically different to the one that we saw in the first three test matches between these two teams. At the end of the day, Australia probably might be the slightly happier side, considering that they've got 255 runs with a loss of just 4 wickets. Usman Khawaja with his maiden 100 on Indian soil. It is the Border Gavaskar trophy that we're talking about, and we have both Alan Border, former Australian captain, a World Cup winner, as well as former India captain in Sunny Gavaskar, joining us live. I'll start with you, Mr. Border. Mr. Gavaskar is right where he should be. He's at the stadium. He'll be there at the end of the game, probably even handing off the trophy. What we're at the moment feeling is we're missing you. You should have been here too.
Yeah, it's a strange one. We haven't been able to get together for quite a few test series now. I mean, Sonny does a lot more commentary than I do, but I'm just sitting around at my father-in-law's place, not doing anything particular. I'll be watching the TV, obviously a bit later, watching the cricket unfold. But I'd love to be there to present the trophy. It's a great honour that has been bestowed on Sonny and myself. So, yeah, I'd like to actually be there to hand it over to the winning captain and the winning team, but not to be. Next time.
All right, next time we'll wait for that. Maybe the next series is going to be in Australia. Saima, you'll have to do something. You'll have to figure this out. As Mr. Border there points out, it's not this series. It's been quite a few series. You two haven't gotten together.
That's true. I think the previous series, which was held in Australia, the problem was with the COVID protocols. So we were stuck in Melbourne, and we couldn't travel to Brisbane, where India had that famous win, and with that went on to retain the trophy. But again, I think sometimes there are different reasons. I don't know what the reason is for Alan not being here, but that's how it is.
All right. Hopefully, we can fix that, and we'd love to see both Border and Gavaskar handing over the trophy, whichever captain that ends up winning the next time around. But Saibhai, let's now turn our attention to the test match, and I'd like to know your thoughts on the pitch. I know pitch has been the most talked about subject in this series, but why this becomes really special is because, whatever you may make of the pitch, the one thing that's pretty clear is the fact that it's very different to the one that we've seen in the first three test matches compared to the one that we're seeing in Ahmedabad.
Yes, it is. It is different. It is not what the Indian team management would have wanted. But there we are. We want international approval, and to win international approval, we will perhaps sometimes not look at what is good for Indian cricket. I don't actually worry too much about Test cricket or whatever it is, where it stands. I think Indian cricket is far more important to me. And if it meant that you had to prepare a pitch which was going to be good for the Indian cricketers, Indian team, then that's what should have been prepared. I'm not saying that this one will not be beneficial for the Indian team, because for all you know, the Indian team can bat brilliantly, restrict the Australians to maybe 340, 350, and then go get 500 runs and then go on to win the match on the fifth day. That could still happen. But there you are. I think in the anxiety to win international approval, and all the screaming and shouting that has happened. I would rather call it whinging and moaning that has happened about Indian pitches, because look, we've got, as Rahul Dravid said the other day, we've played on some pretty ordinary pitches in different countries. But have you ever heard any Indian player moan about it, or even a former Indian player moan about what the pitches is? Have you ever heard the Indian players, or anybody talking? Do you even know what happened in Brisbane in 2021 when the Indian team stayed in a hotel? Yes, I know COVID protocols were on at that stage, but does anybody even know that there was no room service for the Indian team that stayed there? There was no housekeeping, so they had to do everything on their own for about 10, 12 days. Did anybody from the Indian team make a big song and dance about it? Nobody did. Did any former Indian player make a big song and dance about it? No, nobody did. But that is because we know that when you go overseas, you've got to be prepared to face what the hosts dish out. That's as simple as that.
Saime, fair point that you're making, but just to be fair to the Australian team, we've not heard from the players that have been playing this series, whether it's the captain Steve Smith or any other batsman, who's really complained about the pitches that were on offer in the first 3 test matches in India. All the noise that was coming in was from the periphery, maybe the Australian media, maybe media in general, or probably foreign players. What do you think then prompted the Indian authorities to go away from that plan that they had so far in the first 3 test matches and give a better pitch for batting in this test match?
I don't know what the thinking behind that I won't be able to say. And to be absolutely fair, yes, I think Steve Smith has actually said that he enjoys playing and captaining in India, because every delivery is a challenge. Every over, things can change around quite quickly. So I totally agree that the current Australian players have not said anything. But the noise that has been coming from some of the former players, that's been a bit disturbing, considering that, we are entering an era of 75 years of India-Australia friendship. Some of the stuff that has come out is really, considering that, like I said, we're going through this, new era of India and Australia friendship. I think some of the ex-players could possibly, from Australia, not use words that are not quite tasteful, to suggest that there could have been skullduggery in Indore, because in response to what I had asked about the Gabba pitch, the excuse made that the Gabba curator got it wrong, but hopefully there was no skullduggery in Indore. Why couldn't the Indore curator have also got it wrong? Why suspect his motives and give a clean sheet to the person from the Gabba curator? And then to make the excuse that, well, South Africa also had 4 quick bowlers to take advantage of the same kind of pitch. Well, I mean, Australia also had 3 spinners, like India had 3 spinners at Indore. So the pitch was the same for both. And so therefore, just play and accept that, when you come overseas, you're not going to get pitches like at home. But do not use words like skullduggery, etc., doubting the integrity of the Indians. I think no country can have a monopoly on integrity and honesty, because if any country had monopoly on integrity and honesty, there would not be any courts of law in their country. There would not be any jails in their country. So let's get this absolutely straight. That I'm a very proud Indian. When somebody casts doubts on Indians and myself, I will speak my mind, and here I'm speaking my mind.
Okay, I'll get to Mr. Border in a short while from now. But Saima, one more question I had for you. You make a fair point about, even now India, even though Australia may have got 255 runs for 4 wickets down, even now India can well go ahead and win this test match. That point is very well taken. But would you then concede that the kind of pitch that has been offered in Ahmedabad slightly diminishes India's chances of winning this test match as compared to the pitches that were offered earlier? So if you had still gone with that turn that we saw in the first 3 test matches, that would have offered, some better assistance for India to win the test match and better chances for India to win the test match?
Well, it would have been the same for both the teams, like Australia showed in Indore. Their spinners bowled exceedingly well and dismissed India for 109 in the first, and didn't allow them to take a big enough lead to challenge them in the 4th innings. So yes, it could have gone either way. But when you look at what was happening in those 3 test matches, there's something or the other, like Steve Smith said, something or the other happening every over, every so often. And today we saw, what did we see? 255, out of which 54 runs came in the last 9 overs. Otherwise, we would have had a score of about 220, 230. And let me tell you also this: if that was the kind of batting that the Indians had, done anywhere overseas, particularly England or Australia, the screaming would have been, "Oh, this is not good for Test cricket. Only 200 runs, 220 runs scored in a day. How can Test cricket survive?" But you see, this is what it is.
Okay, Sahib, I'll get back to you. We'll also get in Mr. Alan Border in the program. I'll get his thoughts as well. But before that, ahead of day 1 of the 4th Test match between India and Australia, Alan, I'll come to you on this one. And I wanted to talk about cricket relations between India and Australia. Now, at the time that you were playing and at the time that Sunny were playing, mostly you had a scenario where, Australia would win at home, India would win at home. But would you say now that India have won 2 back-to-back series in Australia, and of course they're invincible at home, that power equation, India now hold the edge over Australia?
Oh, most definitely. I think India have got the upper hand just at the moment, and they'll get a chance, won't they, in England at the Oval? Looks like these 2 teams are going to play again in that World Championship game, final game at the Oval. So that will be thrilling in itself, just to watch them go at it in neutral country. But as you said, the rivalry is just built up slowly but surely. There was a period there where the Australians were very, very dominant, and don't forget, we didn't tour India all that often. We came, like before I came in 1979, we weren't here from 1969. So it's a big gap, between teams playing against each other. So that's how far India have come. I mean, sort of fairly humble beginnings with their cricket team to just a world power, and probably the world power. Financially and with the cricket team they put together, absolutely fantastic. So they're winning games away from home. So I'm really looking forward to, well, firstly this Test match, see how this series finishes, and then see how they do battle in neutral territory over at the Oval in London.
All right, I would have loved to have carried on that conversation with Sunny Gavaskar and Alan Border, but unfortunately we're completely out of time. Alan Border there mentioning how he's looking forward to this Test match, and at the moment where the Test match stands, it's on a knife's edge. Yes, Australia are looking there in a good position, but remember, this is a good pitch to bat on. India could very well go past whatever is that Australia get in their first inning. Sunny Gavaskar, Alan Border, thanks so much for joining us. I'm afraid that's all the time that we have on this special broadcast, but news and updates continue on India Today after this short break.